Back on the record, this is the people of the state of Colorado versus James Egan Holmes, case number 12 CR 1522. The record should reflect that Mr. Holmes is present with his attorneys and the prosecutors are present as well. We are outside the presence of the jury. As I expected, multiple jurors, I think just about all the jurors said no to working this Friday. So that's the answer. Okay, let's bring the jury in, please. Please be seated, everyone. Welcome back, members of the jury. Ms. Brady, you may call your next witness.
Doug Szymanski.
Good afternoon. Could I have you raise your right hand so that I can administer an oath? You solemnly swear or affirm, under penalty of law, that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please be seated.
Thank you.
Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Sure. It's Douglas John Szymanski, Douglas, John, John, and Szymanski, Shimansky.
Ms. Brady, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Really good, thank you.
Good. Where do you live?
I live in Rancho Penasquitos in San Diego.
Can you spell that for the court reporter?
Yeah, I'll try. Rancho Penasquitos, Penasquitos.
And is that in the San Diego area?
That is, in San Diego, they have different areas within the city that they call, like La Jolla is part of the city of San Diego, as well as Rancho Penasquitos.
And what do you do for a living?
I work for AT&T as a director.
All right. Can you please tell the jury if you know the Bob and Arlene Holmes family?
Yes, I do.
How do you know them?
I am, or was at the time, the head trustee for PLC, Penasquitos Lutheran Church, and they had come on several occasions and worked under me.
And what time frame approximately are we talking about? What year?
In the mid-2000s, in that range, for several years.
Okay. And when you say they came in and worked for you, what do you mean by that?
Well, at our church, as being part of the head trustee, is not only other jobs, but the facilities of the church, ensuring that it's clean, for before Christmas or Easter, as well as at other times we'd have work committees coming together to clean the church, do work out in the parking lot, do work in other areas.
And what do you remember about the Holmes family doing that sort of work?
What I remember is normally for the work groups, we either have a lot of the men show up or some of the men bring their kids. This was the first time I ever saw the whole family show up, and I thought that was kind of neat that the mother, the father, and the two kids showed up at the church to work. In fact, I looked at that and thought that would kind of be neat for my family to come and do that.
And did you have that occasion to meet James Holmes?
Yes, I did.
And do you recognize him here at the council table with us?
Yes, I do.
Has it been a few years
It's
since you've seen him?
been quite a few years, yeah.
All right. What sort of work did you have the Holmes family do?
We have a bank in the back of the church, so it was cleaning the weeds and the bushes and trying to clean that. We had power washing, trimming the plants, doing all those kind of gardening type stuff that you do around your house, but at the church.
And were they members of that church at that time also?
Yes, they were.
Your Honor, if I can approach Mr. Szymanski with D-TR-273, 274, 275, 276, 277, and 278, please.
Yes.
And Mr. Szymanski, can you tell us what those exhibits are, please?
Okay. 273 is the front of the church, the sign, basically the entrance to the church, and that would be, some of the planting and flowers that would be worked on. 274 is the entrance of the church, and that would be the weeding around some of the trees and the plants. And 275 is working at the, doing some of the work. And 276 is just some of the equipment and garbage and stuff. And then 277 is him power washing the patio.
Is it actually him in the photograph?
You know what? It's a little blurry. I can't tell that from just looking at this picture.
Does it appear to be him?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Your Honor, I would move for the admission of 273, 274, 275, 276, and 277.
Do you have any objection, Ms. Pearson?
No, Your Honor.
Without objection, D-TR-273 through 278 inclusive are admitted and may be published.
Your Honor, 278 is a little bit different. I moved for the admission through 277, and then I'll get to 278.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Okay. All right. I stand amended. It's D-TR-273 through 277 inclusive.
Thank you. Your Honor, may we publish starting with 273?
Yes.
And Mr. Szymanski, you said this was the sign showing the entrance to the church. Is that the church there in the background?
Yes, it is. That's the church in the background and some of the plants and some of the stuff that's at the church.
All right. If we can publish 274, please. And is that the entrance to the church itself?
Yeah, that's the main entrance into the church.
That also shows some areas that you would be responsible for the upkeep on.
Yes, that's correct.
275, please.
And that would be James working plants and, cleaning up and doing those types of things.
All right. 276?
That's just some of the equipment we use and some of the garbage and what have you by the plants.
All righty. 277?
And that's the power washing that we talked about.
The one that's a little bit blurry?
Yeah, it is. It is.
All right. What is Exhibit 278, sir?
Exhibit 278 is a document for community service, and this is something that I received from James in regards to approving his community service that he would need to turn into his high school.
And do you see your signature contained in there where you signed off on that project?
Yes, I do, in a couple places in this document that I signed off.
And is there a date anywhere on there to give us an idea of more
Yeah.
specifically what time frame we're talking about?
April 2nd, 2004.
Your Honor, I would move to admit 278, please.
Ms. Pearson, do you have any objection?
Your Honor, the last couple of pages are a report which I don't believe there's been foundation for.
Are you moving the last couple of pages too, Ms. Brady?
Your Honor, I was, but if the court would like, I can remove those last two pages.
Can I see the exhibit, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Actually, I am moving for the admission of those last two pages.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'm objecting based on, I don't believe that that's actually something that was submitted to the church.
Would counsel please approach? Here you go, sir. Thank you. All right, the objection is sustained, but Ms. Brady, you may attempt to establish additional foundation.
Thank you. Mr. Szymanski, if you will look at the last two pages of Exhibit 278, please, and will you let me know if you know what that is?
This is a document, it looks like James Holmes turned in to the school for his second period class for the work that he did in the community, including the work at PLC.
And that was regarding, you just said, the work he did at PLC.
Right.
Your Honor, I would move for the admission of those last two pages as well.
Do you,
Same objection, Your Honor. He's saying he assumes.
right, the same ruling. The objection is still sustained with respect to the last two pages.
Your Honor, if we could remove those last two pages, would the court allow me to approach, and I'll do that?
Yes. And further foundation may be laid with a different witness.
Thank you. Do you have any other memory of the Holmes family any problems that you had with them during the community service work or anything like that?
No, they were all involved, out working and just really close-knit, and it was nice to have them there working. It really was.
And do you continue to support the Holmes family?
Yes, I do.
Do you continue to support James Holmes?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, sir. I don't have any other questions. The prosecution might.
Do you have any questions, Ms. Pearson?
Your Honor.
And the jury does not appear to have any questions for this witness. May this witness be released from his subpoena?
You may. Thank you.
Any objection? Ms. Pearson?
No, Your Honor.
All right, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Call your next witness, please, Ms. Brady.
Carol Bonono.
Hi. Could I have you raise your right hand for me, please, so that I can administer an oath? You solemnly swear or affirm on the penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Okay, please be seated. Thank you. You can hand me those two exhibits there, more than two of you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Carol Lynn Bonanno, CarolLynBonnono.
Ms. Brady, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Where do you live?
Portland, Oregon.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm an emergency department nurse at Oregon Health Science University Hospital. I've worked there 37 years in the emergency department.
All right. Can you please tell the jury if you know the Bob and Arlene Holmes family?
Yes, I do.
How do you know them?
I went to nursing school with Arlene, and we went to nursing school together. We became friends. We actually, in the summer of nursing school, we backpacked around Hawaii for 30 days. And over the last 40 years, we've remained friends. Every year, Arlene would send a Christmas card, handwritten, front and back, which told about the joys of her family, which identified with how we were with our family, and we had that in common. They also came up to visit us with their children.
When did they visit you? Was that in Oregon?
Yes, in Oregon.
And when approximately would that have been?
Well, I know the ages of the children.
That's fine. How old do you think the children were?
Chris was 3, and then James would have been 5 years older, 8.
Okay. And what do you remember about when they came to visit you in Oregon?
That they were so excited to be on vacation, and they were so happy. They came and visited us in our home, and they pulled a travel trailer, a camper. We all went to OMSI, which is a museum, science and industry. They camped at the campsite, and the next morning my husband and I and children met them, and we went out to breakfast, and then they took off in their camper. And I just remember just seeing how happy they were and thinking what a wonderful, happy family.
What do you remember specifically about James during that visit?
He was a young, our sons were 9 and 12, and they were fun little children. We went to OMSI. They did the little games together, and they were interested in the games, and they seemed happy and well-behaved, polite. They came to our house, and we all sat and visited, and they sat with the mom and sat with the dad, and it was just a nice visit.
Did James seem to interact well with your boys?
Yes.
Were there any problems at all during that visit?
No, there was no.
Anything strike you as odd or unusual about their family?
No, they were very loving.
What kind of a mom do you see Arlene as?
Well, I very devoted to her family, spending her life nurturing the children. And she would write this on the Christmas cards, Christmas letter, front and back, detailing everything that they did over the year and just the joys of raising the children and just very loving and with the goal to nurture their children and have them be good, wonderful people.
What did you think when you heard about the shooting in the theater on July 20th of 2012?
Total devastation. I read about it in the newspaper and I saw the names was Holmes, James Holmes, and I immediately said to my husband, oh my God, this is James Holmes. Totally devastated for all the 12 people who were killed and the 70 who were shot and injured. Just terrible, terrible massacre and just terrible. And I'm so sorry for all of,
I'm going to object at this point.
I'm sorry.
Sustained.
And at that point, did you reach out to Arlene and let her know that you support her?
I
I'm going to object to relevance.
Sustained.
sustained.
Do you continue to support Bob and Arlene and their family?
Yes, definitely.
Does that include James Holmes?
Excuse me?
Do you continue to support James Holmes too?
Yes, I do. I believe he has a mental illness, which is like a
I'm going to
cancer.
object and move a strike.
Sustained. That last answer is stricken, so the jury will disregard it. The jury should treat it as though it never heard it. Okay?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Ask your next question, please.
I think that's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Edson, do you have any questions for this witness?
Thank you.
And the jury does not appear to have any questions for her either. Ms. Brady, may this witness be released from her subpoena?
Yes, sir.
Any objection?
No, thank you.
Ms. Bonanno, thank you.
Thank you.
Call your next witness, please.
Dennis Bonanno.
Good afternoon. Could I have you raise your right hand, please, so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Dennis Robert Bonanno. Spell my last name?
I think your wife might have just spelled it, but you can spell it anyway, just for the record.
Bonnono.
And first and middle names, do they have common spellings? Dennis
Yes.
and Robert?
Yes, they do.
All right. Ms. Brady, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Was that your wife that we just heard testify?
It is.
Do you also live in Oregon?
Yes, I do.
Do you know the Bob and Arlene Holmes family?
Yes, I have for a lot of years.
And how did you come to know them?
My wife went to nursing school with Arlene. I'm closer to Arlene than Bob. And we did a lot of things together before we got married. And that's how I knew Arlene, and we followed them through the years. My wife would always get Christmas cards every year, even though we were miles apart doing different things. And we've known them from afar, followed them through, we have two boys, they have two kids, and Carol would tell me about their progression, and that's how we've known them.
Did the Holmes family one time visit your family in Oregon?
Yes.
What do you remember about that visit?
I remember them coming up in a travel trailer when their kids were real young, ours were very young, and they were just two wonderful kids, played with ours, did some activities up in Portland, Oregon, and I just thought they were a loving, caring family as well as ours.
Now, how old do you think James Holmes was during that visit? Just approximately.
Yeah, I don't really know, but I know that he was probably about this high. Played with our kids, and they had interactions, and just had a good time.
And when you held your hand up, it looked like maybe 4 to 5 feet tall. Is that
Yeah.
a good estimate? So a young boy.
Yeah, young boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you remember about him? Any impression you had of James Holmes?
Just quiet, very polite, much like their parents. Just a great little kid.
Did he play with your boys?
Yes, he did, and our kids were older, and I remember him as a little shy kid, and our kids are kind of shy at that, and I thought their interactions were as normal and great as any kid.
How did he seem to get along with his sister Chris?
She was considerable littler and great, a loving brother.
How did he seem to get along with his parents?
Great, very, as good as kids you can expect.
Anything unusual that you noticed about James or the
Oh
family?
no, not at all.
Do you support their family?
Oh, very much so. I mean, their family, I look at them the same way I do our own family. In all the developments, in all the interactions, through Carol, probably kept more in touch. They're just a loving family. The Holmeses always wanted to know how well our kids did throughout the years and in school and their activities, and we wanted to know about them. And we were always very proud of their kids and all their achievements. Their family mimics ours.
Were you shocked when you heard about the shooting of July 20th?
It flabbergasted me. I couldn't believe it. It was so horrific.
I'm going to object to this point's relevance.
Overruled, but he's answered the question. Ask your next question.
Your Honor, I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Do the people have any questions, Mr. Edson?
No, thank you.
And the jury does not appear to have any questions. May this witness be released from his subpoena?
He may.
Any objection?
Thank you.
All right, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Call your next witness, please.
Richie Duong.
Good afternoon. Could I have you raise your right hand for me, please, so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
My full name is Richie Tan Dong. And what was the?
Okay, and could you spell all your names?
Okay, it's spelled RITCHIETANDUONG.
Ms. Brady, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Where do you live?
I live in San Diego.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm currently a chef at a restaurant.
Okay, what kind of restaurant are you a chef for?
It's a Taiwanese restaurant.
All right. Can you please tell us if you know James Holmes?
I do know James.
And how do you know him?
We went to the same elementary school, or the same middle school, high school, and college.
And let's start with middle school. What city was the middle school in?
The county was Rancho Penasquitos in San Diego,
Right. What about the high school?
also in San Diego.
What was the name of the middle school?
Mesa Verde,
And what was the name of the high school?
Westview.
All right. So approximately how old would you and James have been when you guys met?
Um, Not sure, like 12 or 13, maybe
Okay.
14.
Middle school age?
Yeah.
All right. How did you meet?
I believe it was in the cafeteria, and then we used to play this card game called like Magic the Gathering.
All right. And this was in middle school?
Yeah.
And I think you said in the cafeteria?
Yeah.
How many kids would get together to play this card game?
Like 20, 25, 30 kids.
Okay. And can you just tell us sort of what the game was about and how you guys got together to play it?
The game involved like having resources like different cards, and you would draw them from a deck, and then sometimes you would use dices to roll.
All right. And that's how you got to know him?
Yeah.
Would you guys do anything else together in middle school?
Occasionally we would like at recess we would play together like football.
And what was James like when he was in middle school?
Describe him kind of like a funny kid. Kind of like a goofball.
A
in some
goofball?
ways. Yeah.
And why is that?
I don't know. It's the way he acted sometimes.
Did you guys, besides recess, were you involved in any other sports with him?
No. I didn't really play sports
Okay.
in school.
Let's talk about high school. Did you consider him a friend in middle school and high school?
Yeah.
All right. What about high school? What was James like in high school?
In high school, he seemed like the same person to me. Like the transition from middle school to high school, his personality didn't change at all.
Okay. Did he have friends outside of that group of kids that played cards in middle school?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever go over to his house?
I went over once.
Okay. So through middle school and high school, approximately 6, 7 years, you were only at his house once?
Yeah.
Did he ever go over to your house?
Not too sure on that.
Okay. Was most of the involvement you had with him as a friend, was most of that done at school?
A little bit. I mean, sometimes we would go out to lunch together.
Okay. Anything else you can recall doing outside of school?
No.
Would you consider him a quiet kid or an outgoing kid, a loud kid?
I mean, just pretty normal to me, because I was pretty shy. So I was probably more quiet than he was.
Okay. Were you both pretty quiet
When I was around him, he didn't seem that quiet to me.
when he was around you? Okay. Did you ever meet his family?
I met his mom and sister once.
Was that the one time you went to his house?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know much about his family?
A little bit. Like his mom was a nurse, and his sister, I believe, went to the same school, or she was like younger, but she knew my brother.
Did James do well academically in high school and middle school?
For the most part, yeah, I believe he did.
Okay. Did you ever know him to get in trouble or not get passing grades or anything like that?
No?
Did he study a lot?
I'm pretty sure he did. Well, he started things like earlier than I did. Like he wouldn't procrastinate.
You're a procrastinator.
Oh yeah.
All right. And I think you said that you two then went to the same college, right?
Yep.
And where is that?
University of Riverside, California.
How was James in college?
For the most part, like the transition from high school to college, he was still the same person.
Okay. Was he still studious?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure he already graduated with like the top of the class, like 1%.
Did he go out with lots of friends that you could tell at college?
Yeah, from the stories he would tell me, and yeah.
Now, did you hang out with him a lot in college, or you just knew each other, but you were sort of in different groups?
In some ways, I was in a different group just because we lived in separate housings. But we would have this thing like Lost Night, where we watched this TV series Lost together like every week.
So you would see him for that?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever know James to get in any trouble during college?
No.
Did he ever do anything as far as clothing or hairstyles or anything like that to draw attention to himself?
No. I mean, for the most part, he dressed pretty similar to like when he was in middle school, high school.
How would that be?
Like a white T-shirt underneath with a button-up shirt, like unbuttoned with jeans.
And is that how you remember him always dressing?
Yeah, and Skechers shoes.
Did you ever see him get into any fights or be mean to anyone in any way?
No.
Did you ever even see him get mad at anyone?
No, he wasn't he was never the type of person that would get mad. I mean, I believe, like, if he was frustrated, he would just kind of, like, cool off and leave.
You never saw him yell or fight with anyone?
No.
Did you stay in touch with him after college?
A little bit. Like, a couple of times I would try to call him, and I guess 6 months before the incident, we all hung out together.
When he was home on sort of a holiday break?
Yeah.
Okay. Was that the last time you saw him?
Yep.
Do you consider him to be your friend middle school, high school, and college?
Yeah.
Do you still consider him to be your friend?
Yeah.
Have you said before that he was like a brother to you?
Yes, I did.
And do you still believe that?
Yeah, for the most part.
What's the hesitation?
Just because, like, I know he's gonna go away for a while, and I guess, like, like, trying to distance myself from him.
Is it hard for you to think of him going away for a while?
Yeah, it's tough, but, I mean...
To your honor, relevance.
Sustained.
I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
Do the people have any questions, Ms. Pearson?
Just a couple, Your Honor. When you saw him, and that was around Christmas of 2011, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's in December.
And do you recall being asked about how he was at that time by the defense investigators?
Oh, yeah.
And that you then felt he was just the same as he's always been?
Yeah.
No different than he'd been in middle school or high school or after college?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Do you have any redirect, Ms. Brady?
Very briefly, during that time in December of 2011, about how much time did you spend with him?
Let's see, we had dinner, and then we saw a movie, and then we rode back together in the same car.
So a couple hours?
Yeah.
All right. And it's that period of time where you didn't notice any difference in him?
No.
Did you have any close contact with him after that, between then and July 20th of 2012?
I did not.
Did you ever even speak to him?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Any recross, Ms. Pearson?
No, Your Honor.
The jury appears to have a question. Sir, give us a moment, please. Thank you. Thank you. Would counsel please approach? Sir, the jury has submitted a couple of questions that, based on the rules of evidence and other applicable rules of law, I have determined are appropriate. The first question is, did you notice any change in James Holmes's personality over the course of the years you knew him, middle school through college?
No, I did not.
And the next question is, did you notice any change in his demeanor from high school to college?
No.
Any follow-up questions based on those questions, Ms. Brady?
Just one. Sir, did you know him when he was in elementary school?
I did not.
So you can't tell if there was a change between elementary school and middle school?
Yeah.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Ms. Pearson, do you have any follow-up questions?
And, sir, from college until after college, when he was in graduate school, you didn't see any change in him then either, did you?
I mean, we didn't see each other like that often, so between that time, no, I didn't see any other changes.
May this witness be released from his subpoena?
Yes, sir.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, sir, thank you. Call your next witness, please, Ms. Brady.
Earl Domingo.
Good afternoon, sir. Could I have you raise your right hand for me so that I can administer an oath, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm, under penalty of law, that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, sir. Please be seated. Please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names.
My full name's Earl Anthony Flores Domingo. And which one you want to spell?
All of them. Earl,
E-A-R-L.
and then Anthony, you said?
Yes. My full first name's Earl Anthony. A-N-T-H-O-N-Y. My middle name is Flores, F-L-O-R-E-S. And last name's Domingo, D-O-M-I-N-G-O.
Ms. Brady, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, ma'am.
Where do you live?
In Hampton, Virginia.
All right. And what do you do there?
I'm in the United States Air Force. I work on aircraft.
Do you know James Holmes?
I do. It's one
And
of
do
my
you-
good friends.
One of your good friends?
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize him here at council table with us?
I do.
How long has it been since you've seen him?
Since 2011, end of 2011.
Okay. Can you tell the jury about how you met Mr. Holmes and how you guys became good friends?
I actually met him through a card game called Magic. I played it in middle school, 7th grade. That's when I met him. And we all used to play together in a big group. That's how I first met him.
What middle school did you guys go to?
That would be Mesa Verde Middle School in San Diego, California.
All right. And did you also go to high school with him?
I did.
What high school did you go to?
Westview High School.
All right. Why don't you tell us about middle school, what you remember about James Holmes in middle school?
He was very quiet. I remember the first time we met, we would just play games. He wouldn't say that much. He was very soft-spoken. And once you get to know him, he'd warm up to you and talk with you casually, like a regular person.
When you first meet him, is he very quiet
Yes.
at that age?
Probably, yes.
How was it? Was it through this card game that you sort of got to know him?
Mm-hmm.
Is that, yes?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. Did you guys do anything else together in middle school besides that card game?
We played a lot of video games together.
All right. And how was James at video games?
He was very good. He was probably one of the better gamers I know. He was very competitive.
What sort of games did he like to play?
He liked playing strategy games, thinking games. He was very good at those.
All right. And did you like playing video games also?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
That's okay. And is that something that you guys would do together or a common interest that you have?
Yes.
Anything else?
No, ma'am.
What about high school? What do you remember about James in high school?
We just pretty much did the same thing, play a lot of video games.
Was he still very quiet?
Mm-hmm. The whole time I knew him, he was very, like I said, soft-spoken. And you would have to know him for a while till he would really talk to you.
Once he got to know you, did he seem to get a little more interactive?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever see him interact with other kids in the high school or the middle school who he didn't know?
Only every once in a while, and he wouldn't talk with them frequently or get really, in-depth in his conversations with them. Like, me and my friends, we were I would think, his core group of people he would interact with.
You were his core group of friends?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you ever go over to his house?
Once, I can remember.
And did he ever go over to your house?
A couple times, yes, ma'am.
Did you ever know him to get in trouble at all in high school?
No, he was very, low-key.
What about as far as grades?
He was, had very high grades. I think, I want to say when he graduated Riverside, which we both attended the same college as I want to say he was one of the honor students too, and he had really high grades.
The entire time you knew him, during school there, did he have good grades that you knew of?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever know him to have a girlfriend?
Only after he graduated college and when he was here in Colorado, I messaged him through text, and he told me he's pretty much updated me on his life and how he met a girl.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
Updated me
Okay,
with his life,
okay,
and that's when he told me he had a girlfriend.
all right. Ever know him to get angry or mad or get in a fight with anyone?
No, he was very mellow.
Did he seem to be nice to people?
Yes, he always, especially me, he would always help me if I remember I'd go to the grocery store about once or twice a week, and he'd always be there to help me get groceries out of my car. He wasn't the person that would say no if you needed help. He was very nice.
Okay. What did you think when you heard about the shooting in the theater on July 20th?
I couldn't believe it.
Sustained.
I couldn't believe it.
Hold
No,
on. I
sorry.
sustain the objection, so it means you can't answer it. Next question, please.
Would hurting someone else seem to be out of character for the James Holmes that you knew?
Yes, ma'am.
When you were going to school with him in middle school and high school and college, did you consider him a friend then?
Yes, I still do now.
Do you still support him?
I do.
Your Honor, those are all the questions I have.
Do the people have any cross-examination?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, ma'am.
Do you recall the defendant ever telling you what he wanted to do when he grew up?
No. I know he was going for a neurosurgeon degree. I assume that he was going to want to be a neurosurgeon, some kind of doctor.
Or neuroscience, perhaps? Yeah. So science was always something that he was interested in.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, and you don't recall him ever having a girlfriend other than the mention when you saw him in December of 2011?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and you didn't actually have very much contact with the defendant when he was in graduate school, is that fair to say?
That's true.
And you said that you didn't even text him or call him because you thought he was busy with graduate school.
Yes, ma'am. I would text him every couple months just to check in on him.
And the defendant, the man that you knew when he was in middle school, in high school, was he the same when you saw him in December of 2011?
Yes, ma'am.
Same quiet guy?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So the yes?
Yes.
Do you recall telling the defense that the defendant didn't like his sister?
Sustained.
Do you recall telling the defense that at one point in time the defendant fell asleep in your car and that his eyes looked sleepy like they looked in court?
Yes, ma'am.
I have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
No further questions, thank you.
Do you have any redirect?
When you saw Mr. Holmes in December 2011, was that when you guys were home on sort of holiday break?
Yes, ma'am.
How much time do you think you spent with James during that time?
That was only about 24 hours, or less than 24 hours, about half a day.
Half a
12
day?
hours, yes.
Okay. And did you have any contact with him after December 2011?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever speak to him on the phone after 2011?
No, ma'am.
Ever hear from him at all?
No.
Thank you.
Do you have any recross?
Your Honor.
All right, and the jury does not appear to have any questions for this witness. May this witness be released from his subpoena?
Yes.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Brady, do you want to call one more witness? Do you have a 10-minute witness?
My check.
Yes.
Your Honor, I think it might go a tiny bit longer than 10 minutes, but only a tiny bit.
Define a tiny bit.
15.
15? Oh, you mean it may go to 5:15?
No. Maybe 15 minutes
So
total.
it may just go 5 minutes over. All right, is everybody okay staying till 5:05? Yes, anybody not okay staying till 5:05? All right, thank you. Oh, not past 5:05, so 5:05, all right. Call your next witness.
Your Honor, the defense calls Harry Soren Carr.
Good afternoon, sir. Could you please raise your right hand so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please be seated. Please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names.
Harry Soren Carr, Harry Sorencarr.
Ms. Hayes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Carr, your first name is Harry. Is that the name you go by?
No, I go by my middle name, Soren.
Okay. Where do you live?
Santa Barbara, California.
What do you do for a living there?
I work at Santa Barbara County Superior Court as a judicial assistant.
Do you know Mr. Holmes sitting over here?
I do.
How do you, what name do you know him by?
Jimmy?
Where did you meet him?
I met him my freshman year at UC Riverside.
Okay. Can you tell the jury in general how you met?
I met him, well, one of two ways. I don't remember exactly how. We shared a dormitory together. He lived in I building of Pentland, the dormitory that we lived in. I lived in J. They were joined. And we also had a mutual friend that I met him through.
And who was the mutual friend?
Well, I knew first Gent De Los Reyes from high school, and his cousin, Earl Domingo, knew Jimmy from high school.
Okay. So Gent was at your high school?
Yes,
And that's spelled Gent?
correct.
And his cousin Earl went to high school with James?
Yes,
And were you all then at college together?
yes,
Okay. You were both freshmen at the same time, is that right?
yes.
And do you recall that you and James graduated the same year?
I believe so, yes.
Now, you were studying different majors.
Yes.
What was your major?
Political science and history,
Okay. And Mr. Holmes was in neuroscience, is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. When you met him, did you all kind of have a group of friends kind of form there at UC Riverside?
Yes.
Did that include the four people that you mentioned?
Yes.
Occasionally some other people as well?
Yes.
Richie Duong?
Yes.
Okay. So as this group of young men at college, tell the jury what kinds of things you all would do together.
We would hang out outside of class, watch shows, play games, go get food, stuff like that.
Was it common for you guys to like go out to college parties and stuff like that?
No.
Okay. When you say you would watch shows, what are you referring, like television shows?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about, we've heard that you all would get together and watch Lost.
Yes.
Okay. How often was that?
It was a weekly event when it was on television.
Was that all 4 years of college?
I think it started more our sophomore year, so 2007, 2008 school year.
Okay. After that first year in the dorms, did you continue to live in the dorms on campus?
My first year I lived in Pentland, which was an actual dormitory for freshmen only.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that I lived in Glenmore apartments, which were more on-campus apartments. They weren't considered technically dormitories.
Okay. When you were in the dormitory, was that an honors dorm?
The Pentland dormitory I and J building was honors, yes.
And that was honors for the whole school regardless of your major?
Yes.
Okay. Did Mr. Holmes stay in the dorms after first year?
I believe he was in Glenmore as well, but in a different building than myself.
Okay. After your second year, do you know if he eventually got his own apartment?
Yes. I can't remember if it was his junior or senior year, though.
Okay. When you all would get together to watch Lost, where would you go to do this?
Usually it was at Earl's apartment.
Why was that?
He had the best TV out of all of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
After you would watch Lost, is that when you would play games?
Usually, yeah, or go get food.
Okay. When you're talking about games, are you talking about video games?
Yes.
Now, what types of video games did you guys generally play?
Either computer games or on a PlayStation.
Okay. Were they strategy type games?
Yes.
Were they games that you all would play together?
Yes.
Okay. Was this something that you think like got in the way of school, or just something you guys did socially together?
It was something we did socially together, usually just when we were watching Lost or getting together on a weeknight or a weekend.
Okay. So other than getting together for Lost, would you also occasionally get together on weekends or other nights?
Yes.
All right. In all of those times that you guys would get together as a group, did Mr. Holmes ever bring a girlfriend with him?
No.
Okay. As a group, did many of you have girlfriends?
Not really, no.
Okay. I understand that you had a girlfriend that you would bring with you on occasion, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Was that kind of the extent of the involvement of women in your group of kids?
Pretty much.
Okay. Let's talk about school just a little bit. Now, I know you were in different majors, but I understand you had one prereq class with Mr. Holmes, is that right?
It was an intro to psychology course.
Okay. And that was a prerequisite class to move on to other classes
Yes.
in the course of study at the school, is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. So in order to take, say second year or third year classes, you kind of had to start with some of these prerequisites?
Correct.
Now, this psychology class, was it, well, explain what type of psychology it was.
There were two introductory courses. The one that we took was Psych 1, which was more the scientific aspect of psychology.
Okay.
Neuroscience or inside the brain.
Okay. So like synapses in the brain, parts of the brain.
Yes.
Okay. What was James like as a student in that class?
Something that I can recall was we had a study session together at the library.
for a midterm in that class. And
Was that the midterm on the different sections of the brain?
yes,
Okay.
and he had, it seemed to be very easy material for him, whereas I more struggled with it because I didn't have any real background with that type of coursework.
Okay. When you were with him in class, do you recall that he ever took notes very much?
Not that I recall.
Okay. So he didn't really have notes, but yet he came to study with you for the midterm and knew the material?
Yes.
Would you say that when you were talking about this material, his attitude was, well, what was his attitude with you guys in the group, given that he knew the materials and you were struggling more with it?
Probably, I would describe it as a bit more, he had a bit more of an, it was considered more elementary for him than it was for me and whoever else was in that study group.
Was he arrogant in any way about knowing a little bit more?
No.
Okay. Did he always, I know that was the only class that you guys had together, is that right?
I believe so.
Okay. Do you recall that he always showed up to class?
From what I can remember, yes.
Do you recall in your experience with him at UC Riverside that he was a committed student?
Yes.
Do you recall whether he was smart or not?
Yes, I would consider him having been very intelligent when I knew him in college.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about a volunteer organization that you came across your freshman year of college at UC Riverside.
Okay.
Called Corazon de Vida. Are you familiar with that organization?
Yes.
And tell me what that organization does.
It was an organization that took bus trips down to Tijuana, Mexico, and brought supplies and toys to orphanages there.
How did that organization come up? How did you hear about it?
I think I heard about it through other people in my suite in my dorm.
Okay. So were there a number of people in the dorm that were involved in that organization?
Yes.
Okay. And did you then become somewhat involved in that organization?
I took one trip down to Tijuana.
Okay.
Yes.
If I can approach Your Honor with B-TR-79.
Yes.
And if you can look at that. Mr. Carr, did you have an opportunity to view that particular disc earlier today?
Yes, I did.
And is that indicated by your initials and date on that?
Yes.
Did that video reflect sort of what that day was like for you going down to Tijuana, to the orphanages to help those children?
Yes.
No, it's not a video that you took or that you're in or you recognize anybody in, is that right?
No.
But yet it gives a feel accurately for what that experience was like?
Yes.
Okay. And you're aware that Mr. Holmes also went down and participated with that organization, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, we would move for admission of D-TR-279.
Is there any objection?
Voir dire, Your Honor.
Yes.
Sir, this video, by the way, my name's Rich Orman, I'm one of the DA. What year was it created, do you know?
I don't know.
For what purpose was it created?
I don't know.
Do you know if it was sort of an advertisement to solicit funds for this organization?
I don't know.
You said you're not in it, correct?
No, I'm not.
Defendant's not in it, correct?
No, he's not.
Do you know if any of the kids that are in it were the kids that were there when you went on your bus trip?
I don't know.
How much time did you spend down at the orphanage when you went down there?
Objection, Your Honor, outside the scope of what you're...
Showing his knowledge and foundation to make his position that counsel has talked to him about.
Overruled.
How much time you spend down there?
Maybe 4 to 6 hours.
4 to 6 hours. The buildings that are shown, are they exactly the same as they were when you were there?
I don't remember.
Same color paint, do you know?
I don't remember.
Do you know if there's been any renovations or modifications before or since this video was taken?
I don't know.
The activities that are shown in this, are they exactly the same as what happened when you went down there?
From what I remember, yes.
No differences at all?
Maybe slight differences.
Your Honor, I object. Relevance. Lack of foundation.
All right, I'll defer ruling on that.
Mr. Carr, kind of describe for the jury that day that you went down to Tijuana with Corazon de Vida.
Woke up around 3 or 4. The bus left before sunrise. And we stopped at San Diego on the way down, picked up other people. I don't remember if they're from another college or not.
Let me just ask you a question. When you said we woke up at 3 or 4, you're talking 3 or 4 in the morning?
Yes.
Okay. And when you got on the bus, did they also have supplies and stuff that you were carrying down?
Yes.
What kinds of supplies?
Essentials, maybe toiletries and toys.
Okay. Did you see similar types of toiletries and toys in that video that is there?
Yes.
Okay. So you said you stopped in San Diego, and then what happened?
And then we stopped at the border. We had to get out. I can't remember why. And we crossed the border and then arrived at the orphanage shortly after.
And then you said you engaged in some activities with some of the children, and some of those are reflected on the video, is that right?
Yes, we brought them the supplies that we brought. We interacted with them, played with them, spoke with them, and had a meal together.
Okay. And is all that very similar to what is reflected on the video?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, it is 5:04 and 50 seconds. I don't believe we're going to finish with this witness by 5:05.
Okay. Can you come back tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay. We'll continue your subpoena until tomorrow then, okay?
Okay.
All right, members of the jury, it's 5:05. Let's go ahead and adjourn for the day. Please make sure that you comply with all my advisements. All the advisements apply overnight, and I'll see you tomorrow morning at the usual time, okay? Thank you. Please be seated, everyone. The record should reflect that the jury has exited the courtroom. And Mr. Carr, you may step down, and your subpoena is continued until tomorrow morning at 8:40, okay? Thank you. And the record should reflect that Mr. Carr is now exiting the courtroom. So let's talk about D-TR-279. I think this was the subject of P109, wasn't it? Is this an edited version of what I reviewed for P109?
That's my memory, Your Honor, yes.
And P109, for the record, is a motion that the people filed before the trial. Have the people watched this particular version of the video?
Yes, Your Honor, we have.
And does it have any sound?
Does not have sound, and I believe the graphics have been taken out.
Okay. And what's the response, Ms. Hicks, to the objection? The objection is as to relevance and lack of foundation.
Your Honor, we don't believe that it has to be a video that this particular witness created or knows when it was created, or whether it has to be an exact replica of everything he experienced. Rather, this video is offered as a visual of information that the jury has had, quite frankly, through the testimony that the prosecution introduced in the merits phase, where Mr. Holmes talked about going down to the orphanage. It's also been introduced into evidence that Mr. Carr knew that Mr. Holmes was participating in this particular volunteer organization. So what this video is designed to do is give the jury a picture of what that was like. And I think it's more, it's not cumulative to his testimony because it's a visual representation of what someone has to actually go through during the day to participate in this activity. We think it absolutely goes to his character and his background, which is relevant mitigating evidence. I can cite the court, quite frankly, to Franklin versus Leno, which talks about evidence of voluntary service or kindness to others as valid mitigation. So we think that it is relevant to illuminate that for the jury. Relevance, what was the other one that you said?
Lack of foundation.
Lack of foundation. And I think we've laid that foundation, that he said it's not exact, but it is very similar and gives that jury that dimension of what it was like for that day in the life. The jury's aware that it's not an exact replica. I mean, we couldn't get that unless somebody was filming our client when he actually went down. And I don't think that that is necessary for it to be relevant. I think that may go to the weight of it in the jury's mind, but not to the relevance and not with regard to mitigation testimony. You know, this is the same foundation that we laid for the Camp Max Strauss video that the court introduced a couple days ago. We would rely, Your Honor, on the cases we cited, as well as our client's, Mr. Holmes' right to a fair trial, to due process of law, to a fair and reliable sentencing hearing, to a fair and impartial, probably not a fair and impartial jury, but I think that goes to the 6th, the 5th, the 14th, and the 8th Amendments to the United States Constitution, and Article 2, Section 16, 25, and 20 with regard to the Colorado Constitution.
All right, thank you. It is relevant for the reasons that Ms. Higgs stated. I think the people's objection before in P109 was to hearsay, and I don't have P109, the motion in front of me, but I thought the people had indicated that without the sound, they might not have any objection to it. I can't remember now, but either they said that with respect to this particular video or with respect to the Max Strauss video, camp video. I can't remember it, and perhaps I'm misremembering. But in any event, in terms of the foundation, Ms. Higgs, I think the difference is that with respect to the Max Strauss video, the witness eventually testified that it was a fair and accurate representation of the camp and the activities of the camp. I may have missed it, but I did not hear Mr. Carr say that with respect to the orphanage and with respect to the activities that he and the defendant and other volunteers engage in regularly when they are at this particular orphanage doing volunteer work. So with that additional foundation, I will admit it, but I'll give you an opportunity to lay that additional foundation tomorrow. All right?
Certainly. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. But I think that generally speaking, Ms. Higgs is right. I mean, it doesn't have to be an exact representation or video of what the defendant actually did, as long as it's a fair and accurate representation of the orphanage and the activities that are carried out at the orphanage when you have volunteers there. In terms of, there's a question that has come up several times, multiple times, and the question has to do with what was your reaction when you heard about the shooting in the news? And I have generally sustained the objection to that question. The people did not object to that testimony when Chris Holmes was testifying. But in general, as I have explained in the past, I think that to me sounds like victim impact type evidence, and I think it's irrelevant for purposes of mitigation. Now, if the defense wants to ask someone if this was inconsistent with the defendant's character or not in line with the defendant's character, I think that question is appropriate, and that question has been asked when I have sustained the objection to the question about what was your reaction to the shooting when you heard about it in the news. There was one time when I overruled the objection, and that was because the witness had answered the question already, and I said overruled, and I told Ms. Brady to move on, and Ms. Brady, I think at that point, had no other questions. So I wanted to supplement the record with respect to my ruling as to those questions about what was your reaction to hearing about the shooting in the news. With respect to the jury instructions on phase 2 of the sentencing hearing, I will be emailing, or my staff will, be emailing those to council tonight at some point, probably soon, shortly after I get off the bench. So I would ask that both sides review them so that both sides are ready to discuss them as soon as we are able to, whenever we can find the time to do it. And it may be that we stay a little late one of these nights to do it, if council are able to do it. And I don't need all the lawyers to stay here, but the lawyers who want to be heard on the instructions, once they're ready to be heard on them, I would ask that they stay, and I think we might have to do it either tomorrow night or perhaps on Wednesday, at the end of Wednesday. So in terms of the family videos, have the people had an opportunity to review those family videos that the defense intends to introduce tomorrow? What I don't want to do is get in a situation where we're delaying the jury tomorrow because we're having argument about the family videos. So my question is, do the people have an objection to these family videos? And if so, what's the objection?
Your Honor, we do have an objection to some of these videos that contain Christmas music, and the court will remember that the defense objected to there being Christmas music in a victim impact video of Veronica Mosier Sullivan, which was subsequently edited out, and it was based on a 403 objection. We would have the same objection in this case. They have 4 separate videos that have Christmas music. It's 2581, 2576, 2574, and 2572 all contain Christmas music. And I believe that it is meant to evoke a particular kind of sympathy from the jury that would be improper. Additionally, 2580 includes the family all sitting around the table again at Christmas talking about what they're thankful for, which is akin to a prayer. We believe that is also inappropriate. The rest of them, while there are voicemails of the defendant's father that were left for the defendant, obviously he can testify about them, but we're not objecting to the remainder of what's in the videos.
Okay, great. Who wants to address the objections that were just made by the people? Ms. Higgs, what's the response with respect to the Christmas music in 4 of these family videos?
First of all, Your Honor, we're talking about apples and oranges here. We are talking about evidence and mitigation of Mr. Holmes' life versus the victim impact evidence, which is a completely different category of evidence. This is not a goose gander kind of rule. What is relevant here with regard to the mitigation section of this case is much broader in scope by mandate of the United States Supreme Court, by mandate of both the Colorado and United States constitutions, than the nature of victim impact evidence. So just because an objection was sustained with regard to victim impact evidence has no bearing, quite frankly, on whether or not the same type of evidence should be included in mitigation. This court is very aware that mitigation is very, very broad. I'll cite the court to the Franklin versus Leno case that I cited earlier at 487 U.S. 164 in 1988, United States Supreme Court case. And that case talked about religious devotion can be a demonstrative positive character trait that can mitigate against a death sentence. So it can be included in mitigation while it is not necessarily included in victim impact evidence. Your Honor, what these videos show is the nature and character of Mr. Holmes' background with his family. We've already heard from Chris Holmes without objection that the family often got together around the holidays, so it would not be surprising that there would be some family video around the holidays evidencing that. We don't believe that that's an appropriate basis to exclude those videos at all. With regard to I would make the same arguments with regard to the family sitting around the table at Christmas and talking about what they're thankful for. I would cite to the same cases. I would note that there is a long list of mitigation that is relevant and that the standard of relevance with regard to mitigation is a very low bar because, and what I'm speaking to is the expansive definition of the relevance of mitigation. We would cite also to Mr. Holmes' right to a fair trial, to due process of law, to a fair and reliable sentencing hearing under the 5th, 6th, 14th, and 8th Amendments of the United States Constitution, as well as Article 2, Section 16, 20, 25 of the Colorado Constitution. And if I can just check with Ms. Nelson that she has no other brilliance. Or no brilliance. I think Ms. Nelson makes a good point. I would also cite the court to Tenard v. Dretke, D-R-E-T-K-E, and Tenard is T-E-N-N-A-R-D, 542 U.S. 274, a 2004 case that talks about the relevant standard applicable to mitigating evidence in capital cases. And the court specifically said, we speak in the most expansive terms. The state cannot bar consideration of evidence if the sentencer could reasonably find that it warrants a sentence less than death. Seeing Mr. Holmes in the context of his family, in the context of the things that were important to them, shows the jury, evidences for the jury, his character and his background. Any of that, any piece of that can be a reason that a juror could choose a sentence less than death. The court also said once this low threshold for relevance is met, the Eighth Amendment requires that the jury be able to consider and give effect to that evidence. And so I don't have anything additional to add unless the court has any questions.
I don't, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Pearson, can you list the 4 discs again that have Christmas music?
Yes, Your Honor, they are 2581, 2576, 2574, and 2572.
Great, thank you. All right, is there anything else that we need to talk about at this time on behalf of the people?
No, Your Honor.
All right, anything else on behalf of the defense?
Just let the court know, I think we will finish with witnesses tomorrow, and then if so, we could do those video statements on Wednesday morning, and so if that helps the court plan for jury instructions, I don't know, perhaps Wednesday afternoon, if that's how it works out, but I just want to give the court sort of that prediction of time.
Okay, thank you, that does help. I may still want to have an introductory conversation tomorrow so that we don't leave it all until Wednesday, if it's okay. And that way, hopefully, if the people don't have any evidence, then what I would plan for is to have me read the instructions on Thursday, have counsel do closing arguments Thursday morning, and have the jury then start deliberating at no later than noon on Thursday. Friday is an off day, so what I don't want to do is end with closing arguments on Thursday and then take 3 days off before the jury starts deliberating, so.
Your Honor, forgive me. In light of that, maybe we'll cover this when we do the instructions tomorrow. But has the court given additional thought to how much time it wants to give each side for those arguments? And I think it's 1 each.
It is 1 each. The defense goes first and the people go second in this phase. I was thinking that a half hour would be enough, but what do counsel think? Ms. Brady, is a half hour sufficient for closing arguments?
Your Honor, since the court gave 40 minutes for aggravation, I think we should at least do 40 minutes for mitigation.
Okay. Is 40 minutes enough for the people?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's no burden of proof here, so this is different than aggravation, but if the parties want 40 minutes, I'll give them 40 minutes. So 40 minutes per side. And there's no rebuttal here either, another thing that makes it different from aggravation, but I think 40 minutes is appropriate. So the defense will have 40 minutes and the people will have 40 minutes after that. All right?
Your Honor, I would say I'm content with 30 also, but if we've already committed to 40, that's fine too.
Yeah, we'll do 40. Don't feel like you have to use all 40, but we'll do 40 minutes, okay? All right, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Orman?
Your Honor, since Mr. Edwards is assisting us with the jury instructions and Your Honor's emailing these out, would it be possible for your staff to include Mr. Edwards, and I'll have him give his email address to your staff in that email that's sent out tonight?
Yes, you bet. Okay, the court will be in recess. Thanks, everyone.